Hey, this is Heather with Manifesting Naturally. So glad to finally have this YouTube channel going. Really excited to have you here. We are going to talk about Law of Assumption and manifesting. It is a lifestyle, right? It is fantastic. It is life-changing. I'm so excited about it. I could talk about it all the time, and I do. And we're going to learn, and we're going to level the fuck up, and we're going to do some mystical, magical shit up in here, too. Just like my favorite mystic, Neville Goddard. My most favorite reindeer of all. So, you know what? Please go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification, because we're going to do lives up here. We're going to do all kinds of fun stuff. And you manifested me, so you kind of have to. So let's get into this persistence. And I'm going to give you an overview, okay? I'm going to give you an overview because I think that it's not enough to just say, we got to persist, and persist is this and this. No. I think that, to me, is one of the issues, is a lot of people just have these words out of context without understanding how they work as a system within manifesting. How it's like a clock, like together. These things go together. And some people don't even know what they're persisting in. And they've either never been taught some of this stuff, or they don't know Neville themselves and they haven't been able to interpret it, or they've just been flat out given misinformation. And we'll see here how likely that is. So hopefully you will when you leave this, you are going to understand. And if you've been having problems manifesting, getting into a new state, where that is where the state, I say the state holds the trait. Okay. That's because it's true. We just occupy the same I amness, God, right? Occupies the state. Okay. So here's how it goes. Persist. All right, it's thrown around. Importance for us to not give up on assuming what we already have or exist as whatever we desire. We already are. We already have it. And until we're like most naturally settled into this new state, things, like I said, the state holds the trait. So what you want when you're moving from one state to another, like poverty to abundance, those are different states of mind, states of being, states of self-concepts. They're the same word, right? The other thing about it is the objective expression of that shift in state, right? The showing up of that, the physical manifestation of that. The state also has the means to do that. That's why we don't worry about the how or the when. We're free from that. So and that's something also we just have to accept. So in a way we're free from it, the other way we just don't get to know. All right, so states and self-concept are the same thing. And Neville Goddard is so super clear that no state is good while one state is shitty. In fact, they're not to be judged that way, because there are infinite states and they all get occupied by one being. Guess who that is? Not even Neville. It's God. Surprise, it's God. This is God's big game. This is God's whole big plan. It's going to all be revealed. So basically, give you a little heads up. Before God even created Earth, he existed as plural, right? We know Elohim is plural. Makes up the Father. My Father and I are one. My Father is greater than I, right? So we are all, God decides to break up. This is his plan. I'm going to break up. I'm going to put everybody down. I'm going to descend everybody down, and then to these lower states, and everybody's going to have to go through every generational thing. That's why we have no memory every time we come back, because the horrors that we have done. We have been both victim and victimizer, slave and master, survivor and Germany, Nazi camp runner, and we've been it all on both ends. We don't want to know. And we've also been amazing things, right? We've been rich, we've been poor, we've been well-known, we've been not, we've been everything. And that's the point. God wanted expansion. That's how we get expansion. So this is a big old play for God. This is a big old game. He decides, hey, I'm going to break off. I'm going to send everyone down. Everyone is going to think that they're going to be in a garment, in an outfit. They're not going to recognize each other. They're going to think things are separate from them and that there's an outside. and they're not going to know they're me. And like, there's just trickery. God is full of fucking trickery. That's like his plan. So that's what happens here. All right. So he gives us this law, though, so that we can buffer the blows, so to speak, right? As we go through these incinerator type things, like, because we are, right? He doesn't even hide it. It's going to be rough. So like I said, he's really clear that states are not something, you should not be saying your self-concept is shitty. Your self-concept is unhealthy. Your self-concept is unwanted. That you have a self-concept of that, and then sitting there affirming that. Because when you're affirming that, then you're implying that you are not that. You're God. Okay? You're God. So, you're God. And so, I think Neville has a great lecture on the coin of heaven. His wife apparently gets this download from God, and she shares it with him about, are we investing our thoughts, or are we spending our thoughts, our mental energy? Because we don't need money, but we need thoughts to move around. That's God moves, right? And our thoughts shifting is God moving within us. And we are free to move about. We're free to move about the cabin and put ourselves in first class if we want, or in lost in baggage. Like, we have that option. So we want to be, now that we're awake, we want to be conscious, and we want to start deciding what it is we want, right? So if we're going to invest, why would we not start going right to the top? If it's revealed to you that you're God, and you have to invest your mental resources into assuming a new belief, why would you spend foolishly and affirm that you're loved and good enough? If you seriously want to get what you're promised, if you want to manifest, you have to find conviction. I'm not even playing games. You have to find conviction. It's either Jesus or Barabbas, or Barabbas or whatever. Are you letting the robber free who's going to just steal everything from you? Or are you letting the Savior free who is going to bring you everything? And you have to make the choice. And so basically that's an excellent lecture. It's posted on my Facebook group, Manifesting Naturally, and I think we did a live on it, yeah. And there's also some graphics and stuff, but it's really good. It's basically the trial of the century. God's on trial, basically, and you have to choose. So hopefully you choose Christ and you don't get robbed, but that's up to you. I went through it for a minute where I was just like, I didn't want to do it either. Either religion loomed in the air, even though I knew it wasn't religion. I know this is not religion. It just still looms in the air. And I just didn't want to do it. And then one day I was like a pan to the face. I was like, what the fuck? What do I have better? Do I have a better offer? Do I have a better offer? The first half of my life was completely out of control. And now somehow, some way, I am aware in a time-space reality where I'm alive, healthy and fine, and with some time left to play. And I'm going to refuse the offer that's all packaged with a bow. And I just have to say yes. So my friends say fucking yes, and just be God. Just claim it. It's just love. It's just imagination. It's just consciousness. It's just awareness. Because this is not religion. This is a spiritual, psychological game going on here. And listen, Neville's one thing. What does Neville always says? He asks one thing of us. Test it. See from your own experience if he's correct. That if you want success, you have to accept the precepts that you're God. Find the fucking conviction. How bad do you want what you want? That's the question to ask yourself. If you're having any debate. If you can't say you're love, I don't know. So now, like I said, this is his whole tricky plan is that he's going to come on down. This is a story of you. And he comes up with this game, and basically he's going to split off. Everyone's going to go. And then when we come back, we're going to keep ascending until each one returns back, and then God's the heaven's gonna be like rebuilt 2000 God whatever. It's just gonna be like he's got contractors up there right now, and it's gonna be, that is basically evolution. That is basically how we are evolving and expanding by splitting, taking on all these experiences, bringing them back with us. Again, that's why there is no such thing as like a shitty self-concept or this or that or narcissist. It doesn't matter. If you're hung up on that, you're going to find out. It's a role, it's a state, it doesn't matter. Like, Hitler's up there, and Stalin, and, you know, everybody, they're going back. It's a role. So, get over it. So, I want to just, I think, in my opinion, and we're going to talk about persisting and how important it is. It just gets confusing if you don't understand that these concepts all work together. It's like a clock, right? So if there's a system, there's a clockwork, there's a reason that they all go together. And the way Neville explains it all, and by pulling from his lectures and his teachings and his explaining, he gives his highlighting scripture, he gives you such, it makes it easy to understand, it gives you belief, it gives you trust, which is really what's become so hard for people, right? So you can really use this gift and start manifesting a whole new level. Honestly, if you've been doing anything and you're not just like feeling, I am persisting, I don't even know what the fuck I'm persisting in, I keep persisting, I keep doing it, and I keep seeing things, and or seeing nothing, or it's all shitty, or I swear I am, or no one's really explaining to you, this is going to do it. If you don't understand that after this, you're going to have to listen again and again, but this is going to do it. And if you recognize that this is not what you're doing, or this is not what you're feeling, then this very well could be why you're not seeing any movement, because you're not able to get to the states. If you are, then it should give you some peace that you're doing enough, you're doing a good job. It's just you don't get to know the how and when. All right? So I'm using, like I said, multiple lectures here. I'll list them, but I basically just took a compilation because I just know this stuff, so I was just grabbing different parts. So these are some of Neville's words right here, right? All right. So in the end, there's only one God, one Father, and one Son. The one fell asleep and is dreaming this scattered divine state into being. In the end, we will all awake as the one who fell asleep. Yet we will not lose our identity. I will love you dearly as a seeming other, yet know that we are one. It's a peculiar mystery. We are all God the Father, for there is no other being. God first revealed himself as almighty power to, like, Moses, Abraham in that first crew, and then as Jesus to as I am, and finally as infinite love, the Father. Okay, so this is from another lecture. He says, so why are we here? And he says, Blake puts it beautifully. We're put on earth a little space that we may learn to bear the beams of love. In your present state, you could not stand the beams of love, for God's infinite love is sheer power. Now, we see power used in going to the moon, and we going to Venus and Mars, but the power to get us there is a firecracker compared to your true being who brought the world into being and sustains it. So Neville's saying, if I, in my imagination, could go right in and possess a state, and possess it, and clothe it, a desire, and clothe myself with it, with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, like actually clothe myself with it, by assuming that it's done now. Until I feel natural in that assumption, I'm going to be very aware that's a new feeling, right? But even though my senses are denying everything about this, if persisted in, it will harden into fact. So he's telling you he's getting himself into that new state. He's snuggling into a brand new state. The one that he desires, he's picking that and he's going there. And it has to just stay there, even though at the time it has leftovers. Think of a hotel room that they didn't clean out yet or something. Like, his senses are saying, this is not my room. And the same thing is with state. When you go, if you're moving to a new apartment or something, you may be dying to, and you may get like a dream apartment, but it still takes a minute for you to feel at home there. It sneaks up on you, right? Okay, you have the keys, you have this, doesn't really feel real. Or you're moving in and you're busy, doesn't really feel like home yet. You're glad to be out of the one. When you sleep at night, you feel like you're like not in your room, or you wake up disoriented, right? And then one day it just feels like home. And then if I were to take you back to the old apartment, maybe 6 months later, 7 months later, you would literally be like, there's no fucking way I lived here. It would be so far. So that's how we are with states too. We have to get comfortable in them. We have to get settled into them. And that is what we are persisting in. And that's why states and persisting and desire and all of this stuff goes together, right? So when you're in a state, a man must play the part that the state dictates, and man must play every part. God, in his infinite mercy, has hidden from us parts we have played, because the shock would be too great if we were to see the horrors we have committed as we pass through all these states. So thank God for that, because some people say, oh, it sucks that we don't remember, but the reality is we've played every part. So we've both been terrorized and the terrorizer, and I think we're probably better off not remembering. And again, that's why you don't want to judge a state, because it's God in a state. So if you're saying you have a shitty self-concept, unhealthy self-concept, or unloved, unwanted, that you're saying God is. That's what you're declaring that God is. And Neville is saying to you, do not do that. We do not judge. We do not judge. I'm not telling you that one state is right and another is wrong. I'm simply asking you to judge all states with love. If you're ever in doubt, always do the loving thing. So you don't want to sit there and say, oh, my self-concept is so shitty, or my self-concept is I need to be loved. I'm not loved. I'm not chosen. I'm unhealthy. You're putting that on God, because there's only God, who is you, and others that you think are others, again, are not others. They are you. Fractals of you, your brothers, your Elohim, in garments you don't recognize right now. That's where only self-change comes in. That's why this all works together, right? And we have to persist in these beliefs. We have to persist in knowing who we are. We have to persist in believing that we are God. We have to persist in our mental drive. We have to persist in everything. So we're going to follow along on that, right? I urge you to use your wonderful creative power and deliberately move into the state of your choice. Make it now by occupying the state long enough so that it feels natural. You'll be so aware of the new, so conscious of a different assumption, because that's exactly what happens when you move into a new state. So, like I said, it's going to feel weird. It's just going to feel weird. But you persist there long enough until it feels natural. And suddenly, just like I said with moving, with anything else, it will just sneak up on you and it will just be you. And the evidence of that movement into a new state, you're going to see you may desire the state of fame, right? If you will think you are famous and remain conscious of the state long enough to make it so natural that eventually the thoughts that are just flowing from you become a natural part of your being and your body of beliefs, that the world will then see you that way too. That's what everyone is, you pushed out. So we're persisting in staying in a state, in occupying a state, in hanging in there, in keeping that mental diet, in keeping that story going, in keeping that state alive, in telling ourselves that story. That's what we're persisting in. We're not persisting in just wanting and I want this, I'm going to get 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 this, until we get it. That's not what's doing it. That's not what's doing it. And even just a general story often isn't even what's doing it. You have to, like he says, feel it, get in there, occupy that space. And you will, he says, if the sole of your foot stands upon it, it's promised to you. And you will stand there as man as you stand there as God. He promises Josiah, right? So one of Neville Goddard's promises is that if you believe to the point of acceptance, life is going to be marvelous for you, perfectly wonderful. For this is the one secret in the world that everyone should aspire to solve. For God is that pure imagining in ourselves. He underlies all our faculties, including our perception, and he streams into our surface mind, least disguised in the form of a productive fantasy. Right? What we want wants us more. You would not have sought me had you not already known me. Our desires are a gift. They are a sure thing. Say yes. Jump into them. Don't doubt them. Don't question them. They are a prescription for relief, because you are now awake. You are aware that you want to be in a different state. You get the desire. If you don't know what your desire is, this simple answer is, what is the problem? And the answer is the desire. Or what do you want from someone else? What are you trying to get from someone else? That's your prescription for relief that you have to give yourself. There is no one else. literally. So we have to persist in these things because it's just us out here. It's us and God. I guess it's not a bad team, but all right. He describes what often happens to many people, though, right? He says, I sit here, have a daydream. That's God in action. But then someone breaks it and I forget. I didn't occupy it. I simply had a daydream, but without occupancy. That's one of the greatest fallacies of the world. Perpetual construction. It's a daydream, deferred occupancy. I don't occupy it. I don't go in. I don't possess it. I don't make it mine. So he tells us, if I, in my imagination, could go right in and possess it and make it mine. Now we're getting somewhere. This is persistence. This is getting in there. This is moving in there and getting settled. You're persisting in getting comfortable. You're persisting in getting settled. You're persisting in getting through your own. If you want to doubt yourself, if you want to feel like, oh, this may seem impossible, I can't even believe this is a prescription for myself. Believe it. You're persisting in all of that. You're cutting through it. You're persisting in all of those things. You're just not persisting in wanting it anymore. That's the key. So he says, now every act of kindness is a death in the divine imagine. For in every act you sacrifice yourself, making alive what you no longer want to see. You die to that, and you live in what you want to see. So every kindness to another is a kind of death in a divine image, right? Blake tells us the art of living is forgetting and forgiving. If you don't completely, this is so important. This is so important, especially if you're SP and shit. I'm telling you right here, if you don't completely forgive, you cannot forget. For to forgive is to change your attitude toward another. As you change, you forget what they said or did, thereby no longer keeping them in that state that compels them to do what they did. To completely forgive, I must completely forget the event, no matter what was said. If you forgive me, you cannot even remember I did or said it. I purposely lay down my life to what I saw and lifted it up to what I wanted to see, thereby resurrecting another, who is myself, into a new state. How often must I do it? How often must I persist in doing this? As long as it takes me to convince myself that it's true. So if I have to continually do this over again and imagine again and again and imagine it again and again, that's what I have to do. Okay? That's persistence. Because if I don't die to that, I cannot enter a new state, and another cannot enter a new state. You cannot. That's why you want to be like Judas. He is the disciple that you should be practicing. Paul always says, humans, you just don't you don't die fast enough. Die faster. Like, you don't like something, die to it. Like, literally, not literally, but literally die to it. Comes into play when people are telling you to stop telling the old story, to stop repeating it, to stop talking about things you don't want, to stop putting attention on it, to stop talking about the 3 Ps, to stop endlessly discussing it and dumping it in rooms and talking to everybody about it or anything. It is something that takes discipline, which is why you should definitely check out the disciples that I have posted. Or actually, even there's a disciple workbook now that you can work on where you can practice these disciplines of mine. They're like the most overlooked. I have to bring that up. I would absolutely, that's why I actually threw them into my courses, threw them into myself and started really digging in on them. And just a couple of months has made such a huge difference. It makes your thoughts so much smoother, so much easier to be disciplined, and if you do catch yourself, you get back on track so much faster. There's 12 characteristics of mind. You have to be disciplined because that's persisting as well. Okay, that is persisting as well. You can't put you can't put new wine in old bottles, that kind of thing. You can't put new patches on old clothes. It just doesn't work. So it can't come into the state. It's like you're barred at the gate there. All right. So basically, you want to stop. Seriously. If you're in this whole narcissist crowd or I want an apology, you're literally, that's an answer for you. That's a blunt, in-your-face answer for you why you're not near your manifestation until you're not going to see what you want to see because you're not persisting. You're not forgetting. You have to forget. You have to. So, getting back to that, only willing to see what you want to see. If you persuade yourself that you are now that what you want to be, you have forgotten that what you were before. That is forgiveness. You purposely laid down your life. How often must you do it? How often must you persist in it? As much as you have to, as many times as you have to, until you can convince yourself. Why do you think Jesus cured the lepers, and so to speak, and then they said, go forth and tell no one? Why? Because he was incapable. He has arisen so high that he cannot see. He has forgotten all except love. So he cannot see anyone as sick or wounded or ill or anything that is not love. So they're healed because it doesn't exist in his world. If something does not exist in our world, if I don't believe in, when was the last time you pet a unicorn? It doesn't exist. You don't believe it. If you believed it, then you'd probably have pictures of you and a unicorn somewhere on your Instagram or something. What we do not believe, what we accept as not existing or as existing, is a belief system, and we will see it, right? And so that's why Jesus is not capable. And so we have to get to that point, essentially, with ourselves of just saying, no, I'm done. That is done. And we've done it. We've done it before. We've all moved through phases of our life where that's so over. So we're capable of doing it. We have to persist in that, right? So the greatest talent, the greatest challenge to overcome is the art of forgiveness by leaving it to forgetfulness. This is just crucial for any life changes. But again, I'm telling you, if you're hung up on this SP and you want apologies, you want to know why they're being like this, or you're still calling them a narcissist, or you're still saying you're too good enough for them, or I still want my SP, but I'm too good for them because my self-concept is so much better. You're not understanding self-concept. You're not understanding the states. You're not understanding persisting. You're not understanding occupying. You're not understanding forgiveness. You're not understanding dying to a state. You're not understanding any of it, really. And I'm happy. If that's you, I'm happy because now you do. You have to make a choice. The day comes when you have to make a choice. What do I want? If I truly do think I want, this person doesn't exist. It is just me. It is just me because I'm God and I'm fractaled out and I'm talking about myself, number one. And I have to just douse love on this. And I'm telling you, you can take love from any tap. If you can't love them at that moment, for whatever reason, just say something like, I remember when we had this terrible fight and I thought we weren't going to be together, but look how we've been married now for 3 years and it's the best relationship ever. And they're taking a nap and now I love this XYZ thing, anything. I love the lunch I picked up on my way from work. I love my pillow that I just bought. I love air conditioning. I don't care. I really don't care. Take love from any tap. As long as you're thinking thoughts of love, if that's the best you can do, at least you're not thinking of them in a way. That's persisting too. Persisting in getting creative, changing your thoughts and dying to self and filling yourself up with thoughts that are loving. You're choosing love constantly. And that's what gets pushed down. And it's only you. It's only you. It's only you. They don't exist. They appear to be another. So these things are crucial to understand and they're crucial to do. To the degree that you are self-persuaded that you are able to switch into that state and you persist there in making that effort, that's how you're going to be in that other state. That's how quickly you're going to get settled in there, right? So it's basically just a self-concept, attitude of mind, body beliefs, phase of experience. And Neville says, have you ever noticed a certain time of year, the same set of circumstances happen to you? Every year it's always hot when it's time for your vacation, or you're always broke around Christmas, or when you eat strawberries, you break out in a rash. All of these patterns created in the world of states. All of these are patterns created in the world of states in which we all live. The state, it's when you're in that state I'm the person who gets a rash when it eats strawberries. Or I'm free to eat any fruit. My body can handle a strawberry, right? It's from that simple to I'm loaded, to I'm broke, to I'm cheated on, to I'm adored, and everything in between. There's infinite states. So every desire, you want to plant desires, you want to stretch your imagination, and you want to just bury yourself in every imagination and just persist in them. Just throw the seeds down. Hey, look at this. I love it. I love getting free vacations, and I love that I get upgraded, and I love that I get days off work, and I love that I get checks coming from nowhere, and I love that whatever. I love that I get new cars, and I love that people just do my laundry. I pick stuff, practice, stretch your muscle, and persist in those, and occupy those states as that person, right? So basically, he says, when I speak of states, I'm speaking of states of consciousness, attitudes of mind, which create a body belief. Now, come back to the beginning. Everything is a state. You can be a man, you can be a woman, and it doesn't matter. When you understand the mystery of the states, and you understand you can be anything you want, anybody you want, that's it. You just learn how to move into them, how to know what's the right state, how to trust, believe, walk in faith, not sight. It all makes sense, and that is how you are manifesting. You're God moving. You're God moving. It's just mental. It's mental, okay? I'm adding that because it's important to understand, because without the clarity, what are you persisting in? Often we're unwittingly holding on to the desire, and that's the reason you're seeing no change. It could be as simple as understanding it as persistence in occupying the state long enough to express the preferred experience. It could be as simple as you're not understanding that you're not persisting in forgetting. It could be that you're not persisting in getting comfortable there and being willing to go back and just keep doing that and creating your sheen and occupying that space. You can believe this doctrine and move out of any state. Next, he explains that unity was broken for a purpose. God's creative might descended to experience states in order to become greater than it was prior to the descent. Having unity in thought, creative power fell into division and will be resurrected back to unity of thought once more. The purpose is to follow a certain pattern back into the unity of being. So in the beginning, we were drafted. We didn't volunteer. We didn't fall into these states. We didn't do anything. We didn't volunteer. We didn't want to do it. It wasn't a vote. We weren't punished. It wasn't punishment. We were just made subject to futility, not willingly, but by the will of him who sent us. But when we return, we discover that we are the very being who subjected us. We're now the sons destined to return as God the Father. So it's God who did this to himself by splitting off and then experiencing all these experiences through all these different extensions. So do you see also, does this explain to you how there's this thought communication? They're here because they're you. There's no one else. There's no one else. It's not a big mystery. There is no one else. It is God. You are God. It's just God. It's just you. And what appears to be another is all just God, though. So God hears you, no matter what role you're playing, or what role God is playing. All the roles, you're just dressed up as one, right? So the being that you really are descended to the weakness of the flesh, causing you to experience the state you're in now. So contemplate another state, and the same being who brought your present form into being will restore and make alive the other state, the state desired. This he will continue to do until his purpose is finished. He wants you to do this. You are supposed to be ascending up. That is the goal. That is the goal. You want to ascend up. He put us in a lower realm, a lower key, right? And we are ascending up every time we choose a better state. So when you are told no circumstance matters, or again, let go of that old story, right? There is an actual purpose for you being in a certain state at any given time that we don't know of. But when you have a desire to shift and you're aware of that fact, God in a role, aka a state, we can swiftly and confidently now have faith to imagine ourselves or our perception of another, because there is no other, right? We're given this relief. We're given this gift from God, this relief that we can choose another state. So the circumstances stay within the state. They were never anything. They don't even, God in a state playing a role that you think is another person. And it feels so fucking real. Trust me, I know. This is a mind fuck too. It really is. Because one minute you're like, down with it. The next minute you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, you're just me. And why do we even talk? Why should we talk? We could talk. But then you go through that phase. You go through, like, you almost want to take a time out. You want to think that if you're talking to another Law of Assmumption person, you can have an agreement. Like, I know we're manifesting this, but no, man, you got to get this one. If you're serious, it will change everything. All right, so here's the thing. This is why I'm bringing this up. When you're persisting, why it's safe. It's God in a state, right? You can confidently have faith. God does not fail. He did not fail. It's done. It's not, he can't possibly fail. It's already over. He already won. He already did it. Creation's done. It's already done. He cannot fail. So he's fastened to you, and that's you. So you cannot fail. That would be separation. If you did something God didn't, or God did something and left you behind, that's separation. It's not possible. So be bold and trust your desires and have faith in God. And again, that gives you power and boldness and bravery and faith and trust to persist as the new character within the play. God is always moving. Nothing more is required of you than steady persistence. This is where I and my Father are one. My Father is greater than I come into play. And you don't have to question his ways. There's a spiritual side. The God that's himself, who's you in a piece, he's got this. He's got this. Trust. There are no such thing as circumstances. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. I don't even want to hear they don't matter. They don't exist. Other people don't exist. You're creating characters, and they are coming up in personification because you believe in them. So you have to start telling a new story, and you have to persist in the new story, which is taking you to a new state, which will get you comfortable in that state. That is what's going to do it. Or you persist in the scene of that your love to fall in love with, thinking about the end scene and getting lost in that, just imagining, what it is you want and just loving it. Loving is the key, and a gentle mind switch is the key. And shifting your thoughts in a nice, gentle way that your mind wants to. You don't even want to open your eyes. Think about it when you're like lost in a delicious sort of scene, right? That's what it takes. And then you just persist and you just hang out there and you just have to have faith. If you're asking for movement, you're going to get movement. If you are daring to label it opposite or anything like that, you're breaking your persistence, because again, God is telling you, mind your business. I am you. Who are you? You're like micromanaging yourself that you don't even know is yourself, that you think is someone else. Back off. You asked for movement. You were told exactly how it's going to go. You were told, I'm going to take care of this. You don't get to know how or when. It's going to happen. We're going to set things in motion. I'm going to get us there. You just keep persisting. You just keep using your thoughts and propelling us with that persistence of being there and having it and appreciating it and loving it and being in that new place. and I'm going to take care of the rest. And then movement happens, and you just start telling God, like, he's using the wrong color paint and he's putting his shit in the wrong place. Like a master craftsman, really? Stop, because that is an affirmation now. That is a belief system. Now you're going off to another state where the opposite happens to you. And it doesn't take long sometimes, because it doesn't take long if you're going to insist upon that, or nothing's happening. Just trust in God, and that is part of persisting. And that's why I'm telling you this as a whole and an intensive explanation, because they work together. If you know the story, if you know why, if you understand, if you grasp it, it pulls everyone as you push out. It pulls everything together, but it's why the persisting is imperative, and how if you're not doing that and you're doing these other things, you're not gonna be in these same places, you're gonna be in these same groups, you're gonna be in these same rooms saying the same shit again and again, or you're gonna get a little hot and cold, because you're gonna have moments where you're like gung-ho and you're brave and you're bold and you go in there, and then you like stay there for a hot minute, and as soon as you see something and it's not exactly perfect, you are up and out. You don't persist in staying there. You don't persist in getting comfortable. You don't persist in letting them settle in. You don't persist in any of that. And I'm sorry, this is already a big fucking gift, and it's an amazing thing. And you can master this, and you can change your life, and you can have and be and do anything you want. And you can end this frustration. You can stop all this bullshit, endless road affirmations, or your head is thing, and flipping thoughts, and being afraid of your thoughts. You can put an end to it all if you would persist. If you would persist, and you would follow and trust this whole system. Okay? I just have to go here. There's unnumbered states, and the occupant of one state is not better than any other occupant, right? For each is a brother in the highest union, and all are one with the body of God. Can you hear this and continue to believe in this whole, what I've just been saying? You have to ask yourself, this is a time for self-reflection for a second. Can you continue to be sitting there saying things like, after all you're listening to and knowing what it takes, it's just very simple, nothing's physically asked of you, nothing financial asked of you, nothing. No, you owe nobody anything except yourself, some disciplined thoughts, and the willingness and the faith to give to yourself that which you want. And then you can it will literally just manifest in front of you. It can't get any fucking easier. This is real. This is legit. This is as legit as it gets. There would not be people, very smart, logical, educated, mindful people who are all over this, if it literally is not happening and shifting in our daily lives. I promise you. This is crazy shit, and you should be on your knees right now, because it is so fucking amazing. So don't torture yourself, don't suffer any more than you have to, and don't, when you're basically, don't put yourself through any extra furnaces, right? Because his spirit, if you take God into these places of opposite, not showing up, narcissists, shitty, self-confident, this, that, he has to go with you. He'll endure the furnaces. He'll go from dark into darkness from light, and life to death, and healed to wounded. He just doesn't see it that way. It's just things that are created, and you cannot stop manifesting. So you don't even get to quit this. Guess what? It's the Hotel California, so you don't even get to quit this. So now that you don't get to quit. You get to put your blindfold back on and go walk out on the highway during traffic and hope that you make it like you were. And sometimes you will and sometimes you won't. Or you can buckle down and appreciate this and use it. Okay, so the answer is always yes. God's answer is always yes. It's always yes. We're always just giving, because there's nothing to take. There's nothing to get, because there's no one. There's no one. So that's why we have to give to ourselves. We have to persist in giving ourselves what we want, by deciding to listen to our desires, accepting them as gifts from ourselves. That's why I call it a prescription for relief, because we know what we would like. We're ascending in consciousness, which is the goal, the whole reason we came down. So does it all make sense, hopefully? Hopefully it all makes sense. All right. So basically, let me see, where am I at here? So he tells us, your sons of the Most High. You can, in a twinkle of an eye, move into any state. The chances are you are not going to remain there, because it's made up of a body of beliefs, and there's nothing physically required of you to do to see your desire objectified. There isn't. You don't need to lift a finger. You literally can sit in bed and say, I'm going to be a millionaire. And people say, well, how's that going to happen? A billion ways that could happen. A billion ways. You don't have to lift a finger. So if you're falling for this, like, I'm going to take inspired action, you are breaking a persistence in your dedication, in your discipline, in your practices. Persisting is the key to it all, because we don't get to know how and when. God has revealed, the revelation is the beginning, that we are God, and revelation is the end, we will be the Father. In the middle, we don't get to know. We just know we were given this law to buffer our way while we're here living this way. Okay? So, again, work on disciplining your mind. If you can stay aligned, the payoff of this mental work is going to provide like a huge return on your investments when it comes to resisting, when it comes to your mental diet too. Now that's a whole nother thing. You have to stay aligned more often. Not perfect, not always. You're going to have days, you're going to have feelings, you can have them. Does not matter if you have a bad day. Doesn't matter if you react. It's fine. I did the other day. Think about this. If you're sitting there upset and mad or hurt or angry at yourself or whatever, confused, whatever happened, think about it as like you're sitting there and you spilled some milk, okay? Who cares? Milk is not it's not toxic. It's not going to eat your floor through. You can get more milk. It's not like $1,000 a gallon. It's spilled. You got to clean it up. But if you sat down and cried, even if you fell asleep crying, even if you left it there overnight, no harm, no foul. It does not affect a thing, right? So if you cry over your spilled milk, that is not a big deal. But if you just stay there and you let it sit there forever, then you're going to have it's going to be disgusting, right? And it's going to then it's going to start to cause trouble in your life, because it's going to be disgusting. But in that moment, you're fine, okay? So you have to know that this is really, you want to stay aligned more often than not with those thoughts that are matched, right? Otherwise, you wind up you cannot gain a clear lead of the type of thoughts you want to dwell in, right? You wind up as a double-minded man who's unstable in all his ways. Like, that's going to get you absolutely nowhere. This is going to get you like hot and cold and up and down and all around. It's going to drive you insane. It's going to frustrate you. You're going to have you going, you're going to be the people paying 6 coaches, getting nowhere, 4 years into groups. Don't do that to yourself. Please, don't. So hopefully you realize by now that you are causing all the blows, the heartaches, the pain. This is Neville speaking. That happen to you. And you'll begin to change your thinking. And as you do, Scripture unfolds in you. This is Neville. I urge you to apply this principle and cushion yourself against the normal blows of life. Let no one frighten you, for you are an immortal being who cannot die, and everyone is moving towards that level, and no one can fail, because if one fails, that's a piece of God. He can't be complete if a piece of him is not back. So everybody's going to make it through every stage. And the fact that we're waking up and we even know this and we're aware of this lets us know that we're becoming awake. So could be the end of getting near the end of this. Who knows? But we're getting higher, that's for sure. So in an effort to make this as clear and as comprehensive as can be, like, hopefully I put these pieces together for you. I want you to see them working together in action by design, and give you a view so that you can see easily, where am I missing the mark, right? Because that's the only sin. You're just missing the mark. You don't believe you're God, that's an issue. You got to start there. You're missing the mark, that's a sin. If you are making some of these mistakes, tighten it up. Discipline. That's your simple answer. It's just a cleanup job. That's it. It's just a tightening up job. That's it. This is it. This is manifesting. This is the law of assumption. That is it. All those dozens of lectures, all this coach, all these things you're watching, sleep tapes, endless things, all this. For what? This is it. You are God. That is all you are. You are here by yourself. You think there are others. There is nobody else to change. You have to. It's just a state. There's endless ones. You're occupying them and you can move at any time. The desires you can trust, you can dive into. They are for you. Go for them. Be bold. Be brave. You can't fail. God already did it. God's not going back without a piece of him. You know the end of the play. You know the story. You know who you are. It has been revealed to you. You have the playbook. Get a good offense, get a good defense. Is it simple? Yes. Is it easy to do? No. Is it like telling someone how to fold a fitted sheet? Simple instruction? Yes. Easy to do? No. Not for me. But the bottom line is, that's where persisting becomes imperative. You have to, if you're just stuck persisting in the wanting, if you're persisting in the desire, if you're persisting in the wanting, if you're persisting in the social medias of who, if you're persisting in telling stories of people that don't exist, if you're persisting in looking outside of you, if you're persisting in comparing, who? These are from Neville's lectures. He pulls this out of scripture. He's explaining this to you. He's showing it to you where it comes from. This is a psychological manual. This is not religion. This is you in different states. Every story in here tells the same thing. Right? So, the other thing I want to say is, listen, think twice, okay? Neville packages this up. Neville tells you you're God. He puts it all together, has it all backed up, offers you trust, offers you faith, offers you hope, offers you love, offers you solutions, tells you the way, tells you it's only you, tells you you can't fail, it's already done, tells you that it's a gift for you, tells you you're free to move about, tells you how to move about, tells you how it's going to feel, tells you not to worry about that part, tells you you're going to see movement, don't worry about it, trust in me. It tells you that there's no way that I'm going to say yes to you to whatever you want. So think about what you're saying. He gives you the disciples. He tells you how to discipline your mind. You've been supplied. You are fully supplied now. This is how you manifest. And this is why persistence is a key part to all of this. Because if you give up persisting in any one part of these things, and you let go of believing you're God, and you let go of loving them, and you let go of not telling the story, and you let go of stalking them and not stalking them, and you let go of taking inspired action that doesn't exist, and if you let go of staying in that state, if you let go of imagining things as you want it to be, feeling like that is who you are, if you let go of all of this stuff, none of it will happen. It doesn't matter how much you do. It doesn't matter if you're God. It doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. So think about this. Before you go and you refuse and you denounce the simplest directions included in the little God's game, which is just to get into a relaxed state at the end of the night, or before you get out of bed in the morning, or I don't know, if you have 5 minutes on your lunch break, sit in your car sometime during the day for a couple of minutes. Go into your mind, and it's not a visual. It's not a visualization. Everybody can imagine. It's a weaving of words. If you've read a book, if you've watched a movie, if you've listened to a friend, if you watch anything, your mind will think in pictures, and you just imagine yourself by weaving a little tale of what would be an amazing end scene for you that you would fall in love with and that would feel good. Your brain will accept it. Don't go pounding your brain with these instant flips, and trying to fall asleep to sleep tapes that are, I'm good enough. For what? Choose to get into another state. Now, should you self-reflect? Absolutely. Something comes up, triggers you, upsets you, hurts you. Take that minute. Figure out why. Do it. Of course. Absolutely. But you don't have to heal. You just move to another state. You look at why, what's going on, and you make a choice. Self-concept is always a choice. A state is a choice. A desire is a choice, right? Or it comes to you and it tells you what is happening. Or you want something from somebody else. There is nobody else. So you have to give it to yourself. This is what we mean. And this is why persisting is, if you can do all of these things, but if you don't persist in them, and all you're doing is persisting in the wanting, then you are endlessly wanting, and you are not occupying. And so, why? Why are people so willing to say, I don't need a technique, I don't need to do that, but yet you're willing to do all of these other things? Just do a simple thing. And that's it. They're easy. If you do have a hard time, some people do have a hard time, and I've done these for many people, to pull them right into a scene in TikTok lives, in Facebook lives, in wherever, and we're all there for a minute. It only needs to be for a minute, just so that you feel like you stood there, and like you make it like you're reading a paragraph off a book, or the book cover sucks you into the story. That's your story, and then you feel like you were there, and it's delicious, and it feels good, and you go back to it. Your brain loves that. It does not want to get punched in the face with flipping affirmation, flipping thoughts, so that you're not thinking those thoughts. It doesn't want to, okay? Your brain is actually used to you having a pattern, and that's how it knows you're okay. So you're actually really disturbing your brain. So the last thing you want to do is hear what you have to say, because it thinks you just got hit in the head with a bat. Okay, so take the simple directions. Why is it so hard? Just tell a little scene. And if it's that hard, invest a few bucks. Fill out the personalized visualization end scene, and I'll make you one based on what you want, and you go to sleep to that every night. If you're going to go to sleep to something every night, go to sleep to your own end story. Okay? You can do it yourself so easily, but if you need help, you can go do that. Listen to that. Listen to your end story. Do what the people who have deciphered this, that put this down into words that Neville was able to pull out, and they tell you the best way to do it. Why? Because you're sleeping. It's this dream that God is having. Right? It's a dream. It's supposed to be easy. You can even go easier than that. Just lulling yourself by repeating something like, just thinking about what you want and just being like, thank you, in your mind, thank you, or this is better than I imagined, or I knew this would be true, or this was the best day of my life. Like whatever, lull yourself to sleep, wake up, spend a little time in meditation, lull yourself to sleep. This is what's important, okay? So basically, listen, see the story of Jesus Christ as God's plan of redemption. Read the directions. You'll discover only as the risen Christ that Jesus makes himself manifest. God the Father is dreaming in the depths of your soul. For God is dreaming himself into a greater image of himself, and you, the dreamer, are dreaming yourself into the image of yourself. Imitate God as a dear child by having a controlled dream. Make a composite picture of what you want. Ask no one to aid you, or if it's right for you. Desiring life to be full, do what God does. Make a wish and possess it. Don't ask anyone. Persist just as God is doing, and nothing and no one can keep it from happening. To truly imitate God, dream nobly. He started with a wish saying, let us make man in our image. And God has persisted in his wish as though it were true. Do as God has done. Take a wish and persist in believing it's true. Don't deviate. Just continue believing in its truth. And in the end, you will unveil your wish You will project it onto the screen of space, just as God has unveiled his wish as Jesus. Right? His name is I am, and unless you say within yourself, I am what I want to be and I believe it, you will remain saying within yourself, I wish I were what I want to be, and die in your frustration, which is, to quote, your sin. I urge you to learn how to believe in yourself, persist in those assumptions, persist in those beliefs, persist in that mental investment. It may appear to be difficult at first, but it is not when you're willing to try. Go out on a limb and try it. Just go and try it. And when you know what you want, you don't even ask God as though he were another. You ask your individual self to bring about your desire. You are he. And God is your own wonderful human imagination. It will respond when you will not take no for an answer. That's called brazen impudence. It's just denial. No, I will not take no. I will not take no. But you have to believe every precept literally, because it's going to be fulfilled literally. Believe that all things are possible to you and that you are what you want to be. Persist in that assumption and it will harden into fact. Having assumed the life you now live, no one can take it from you but yourself. You have the power to lay it down by no longer being conscious of it, or the power to pick it up again through consciousness. It's like a flashlight. You're shining on consciousness. So every time you're talking about, when you literally, it goes against what we're taught in this life, but anything you do not want in your reality, you just turn your back to it. That is it. Don't get baited. Turn your back. Persist in that behavior, in that discipline. Turn your back. Do your best. You're not going to do 100%. Nobody ever in life is asking you for 100%. Okay? But God is making you into his perfect image to possess all that he possesses. And God's word cannot return void. So Christ is the word. The bird is the word, but Christ is the word who is one with the individual who speaks it. You are Christ, the word set forth from God's mouth as his hope and glory. God is making you into his perfect image to possess all that he possesses, as God's word cannot return void. Which is also why you want to make sure you're wishing good things for people. See them lovingly, because it's you. It's you. It's always you. So be easy with yourself. He's saying, put God to the extreme test. If all things are possible to God, and if things are possible to the believer, can you believe? I'm not saying you'll succeed the first night, second night, but, it says, having been trained to accept only what your reason and senses dictate, you may find it difficult or almost impossible to believe what you could believe. But you can. Hear that? You may think it's impossible to believe what you could believe, but you can. So there's something for you to persist in. All right, guys, so, this is literally just a play. It's just a play. This is the world of death. Human imagination is eternal life. It's in the human imagination who will reveal your true identity to you when you are as perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And that's when you'll see David, who is the son of the Father, and essentially that's how you will know that you are now God in Scripture. And that's a promise. That's the promise. Apparently, people think that Jesus is the Son of Christ. Jesus is the Son of God, but Jesus Christ is the Son of God. But I tell you, Jesus is the Lord. This is a mystery. David comes in the Spirit and calls Jesus Father. Humanity is Christ, the Son, and Jesus is God, the Father, right? And David is the Son. And David will say, he'll call you Father, and you'll recognize him as Son. And we're all going to have that moment, which we will be embodying God. And that day will be when the play is over. And it doesn't matter what you have done. ever or anyone has ever done, good or bad, you will awaken as God. So use this law, use this gift, buffer the blows, enjoy your life, persist in all of this, because even now that you know this, if you're not willing to hang in there on any of these things, and the one thing you're hanging on to are all the doubts and fears and assumptions and stalking and, that separation, that's what you're persisting in, there's your answer. Okay? So hopefully you have a clear picture of persisting. And yes, I went over all different things, touched on them vaguely, but it was to drive home the point that this is a movement. This is a process. They go together. When you just take persist out and you tell someone, go home and persist. Imagine that it's done and persist. No circumstance matters. And then meanwhile, you think you're persisting and you're not aware of any of this. And you're not getting results. And then you hear like, oh, my husband went with this person, and you have a breakdown. Well, of course you would. Of course you would. So hopefully let this end your suffering. Persist in not suffering. You don't need to suffer. That is a choice now. From this second on, that's a choice you're making. That's a choice you're making. All right, guys, so listen. Hopefully you like this. Hopefully it cleared things up. If you're not already, follow me on TikTok. It's probably where you found me from, but there'll be a live schedule I'm putting out a new schedule this week. This is November 9th, so for next week, there'll be a new schedule for lives, which will start here too. Subscribe, hit the notifications. I'm going to be posting these. This gives me a chance to really explain concepts in detail where TikTok doesn't, Facebook, I don't like. And, but join the Facebook if you're not in the Facebook group, because that's where the schedule gets posted. That's where right now we have some holiday specials, like as far as some people are living in the 4D for the holidays, and that can be hard. So I opened up a Thanksgiving workshop thing, so you're not alone, you're with other people. We're going to do some exercises. We're going to be gratitude, thankful, persisting. The Thaddeus is the disciple of Thanksgiving. We're going to do that. There's a 2-day work course which basically covers these main topics, right? Which is the disciples, which is love, which is the states, and desire. And it's over 2 days. Basic core stuff, just to remind you. And then there's one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. So anyway, that's all just whatever. It's there if you need it. But really, I appreciate you listening, and hopefully this really will help you, though. And I really want you to pay attention to what you're doing. And if you're doing these things wrong, now you have a chance to correct them. If you're doing these things right for the most part, then chill and be in some peace. Enjoy it, because you're cool. It's just, you just don't get to know how and when. And start planting other seeds while you're waiting. The only thing you're waiting for is the confirmation, the 3D. Imagine that you get direct deposit and your check is in your bank, right? Your money's in your bank, but they mail you a hard copy of the check, right, at the end of the month. Are you waiting for that check? Are you anxiously at the mailbox waiting for a check where the money was already in your account? Think about it like that. So you get direct deposit, and then they just send you the hard copy. Who cares? You already got it. Think about it like that. All right, guys. Love you.